Hello everyone, I'm Joe Ackourey, and welcome to the Fly of the Week. For this episode, episode 82, I'll be tying the American March Brown Nymph. The American March Brown Nymph has been around for quite some time, but you never really hear anything about it anymore. It was a very popular nymph back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, and I've personally have caught a ton of trout on this fly, and I think it's worth mentioning. It's a relatively simple pattern to tie, and I like to tie it in sizes 12s, 14s, and 16s. So, without further ado, let's get started. The American March Brown Nymph. Start by placing your hook in the vise, making sure that the shank of the hook is relatively parallel with your tabletop, and begin to cover the entire shank of the hook with thread. You want to stop where the shank and the bend meet, and that's just pretty much right about there. So the American March Brown has been around for quite some time, but you never hear anything about it anymore. I mean, it was a very popular nymph back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, and I could still remember my dad tying a bazillion of these nymphs, and they worked really well. And yeah, I don't know what happened. And again, I never hear anything about it, but let's try to resurrect this fly and get started on it. So the American March Brown, we start out by tying the tails in, and the tails are made from moose mane or moose body hair. So I'm going to take a couple fibers, a couple of hairs here, maybe 5 or 6, 7, and I'm going to place them in my hair stacker, and hang on a second here. Here we go. Place the natural ends inside the hair stacker. We got some long ones here. Let's see if we can get them in there. Okay. That should do it. So when I take these out of the hair stacker, I always want to point them in the direction, or orient the hair stacker in the direction where the tails are going to be facing. So the natural ends are going to be shooting out the back of the hook. So it makes sense to take them from the back in that, orient the hair stacker in that direction. So there we have it. There's our nice even tail, and we need a measurement on that tail. And I usually go the length of the shank of the hook, and I include the eye. So that's about right there. So there's my measurement, and so I'm just going to pop that in that sweet spot there and anchor those with a couple of wraps. Then I'm going to wrap that all the way up the shank of the hook, the excess, without crowding the eye. We're going to stop just about a 1/16 of an inch before the eye, and I do that to keep everything even, whatever goes on top of this material. So there you have it. There's our tail, and it's proportioned to the hook. So our next material is the ribbing. The ribbing is made from a strip peacock eye fiber, strictly from the eye, guys. You get that two-tone effect when you strip the fuzz off the fiber. Not from down here where the Herl is, right from the eye. And the eye, I don't know if the camera could pick this up, but there's a definite two-tone color on this strip fiber. And you can strip it 2 ways. You could strip it with your fingers, or a good pencil eraser will do the trick. Make sure you got a good soft pencil eraser. Okay, so there's the thick end where I cut the fiber off the eye, and I'm going to attach the very tip of that, because you're going to need as much of this fiber as possible. And I just anchor that with a couple wraps and place that in my material clip. Now for the underbody. The underbody is made from tobacco brown floss, single strand. I'm going to take a good amount of that, maybe a 8 to 10 inch piece. I'm going to lay that parallel with the shank of the hook on the side, and I'm going to anchor that tightly up against the tails and the peacock fiber. Now my goal is to make a tapered underbody about 60% up the shank of the hook. So I'm going to hold on to this floss. I'm going to give it a little twist so it doesn't unfurl too much. There we go. And just gradually build your tapered body. And I do that by leaning up the wraps against the previous wrap. It may take a couple steps here, or layers. That's looking good there, and now I'm going to go back and repeat the process. And back up. And this is where I'm going to really start to see my taper forming. And you could probably pick that up really easily now. There we go. Good enough. So I'm going to lock that in with a couple tight wraps. Clip off my excess. Got a couple wild strands here. We'll carefully get rid of them. Nice slow taper there. So now the next step is grabbing this strip peacock eye fiber carefully and make equally spaced wraps going up the abdomen. There we go. Very good. Lock that in with a couple of good wraps of thread. Okay, let's review. So we have our tails, which are equal to the shank of the hook, including the eye. And we got to clean them up a little bit. We have our peacock eye, strip peacock eye fiber, strictly from the eye. Strictly from the eye, not the Herl down here. You want to strip that off with a pencil eraser or your fingers. We built the underbody from our tobacco brown floss, a single strand. And now we're going to build the thorax. So the first part of the thorax is the wing case. And the pattern calls for mottled turkey wing quill section. I'm going to use wild turkey because I got a nice mottled section throughout this top part of the quill. And I'm going to do like a 3/4 of a gap thickness for this section. So I'm just going to take my scissors and cut off the section from the quill. And let's review this quill a little bit. We have the natural end. We have the cut end. We have the side that the turkey shows us. And we have the underside. I'd like you to tie it in with the underside facing up and by the natural end. So you want to center that right on top of the abdomen or the shank of the hook and make sure that you're tightly up against the abdomen. And once you fasten that off, clip off the excess without crowding the eye. You don't want to get too close to the eye of the hook. Take your feather, your wing case material over and bend it over to make sure that there's no thread showing behind it. Very good. So that's the first part of our thorax. So now we need to anchor in, we got to find a hackle for the legs, and we're going to select a nice brown Rhode Island red hackle. We're going to strip off the downy fuzz, exposing the stem, like so. And remember, there's a natural curve to this feather. I want the feather curving down and over the fly, not up and away. Down and over. I'm going to attach that to my side of the shank of the hook. and we're going to clip off the excess away from the eye of the hook. So for the body, or for the thorax, the material for the thorax, we're going to use Peacock Herl. I'm going to take 2 strands from the Peacock quill. We're going to use this heavier stuff, not the eye, but the heavier stuff. That'll make up the thorax. So we're going to take 2 strands. We're going to tie that in on the side, like so. And then we're going to begin to carefully wrap. Oh, let me start that over. There we go. That for the thorax, and we're going to build a nice thorax. Slid right down the hook there. There we go. Okay, anchor that. Clip off your excess. So let's review the thorax. We first selected a section of wild turkey, modded turkey, that, from the wing quill. It's got a nice modded section there, as you could see. That section was equal to 3/4 of the shank of the hook. Then we selected a nice size 12 hackle. The hackle length, the hackle fiber length should be about 1.5 gaps to 2 gaps long. And now our next step was to build up the thorax using the Peacock Herl. We took 2 fibers of that and wrapped it around. And now we're ready to palmer the hackle through the thorax. So we take our fiber, our hackle fiber, and we wrap it, we palmer it right through the thorax with 3 wraps, 1 in the back, 1 through the middle, and 1 near the front. Very nice. We secure that with 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 good wraps should do the trick. Clip off any wild ones that don't want to cooperate. So now, to finish this fly, we're just going to take our wing case and carefully center that over the entire thorax. Make sure it's through the center. I'll tilt the fly so you guys can see what I'm talking about. We're going to lay that right on top and get it as centered as possible. There we go. Anchor that with a couple of good wraps and clip off your excess. Finish it off by making a nice foundation for a head and tie your finishing knot. This pattern works great, guys. A nice dead drift with another one of your favorite flies. Bounce this off the bottom. You're going to connect, I'm telling you. It's a great fly. I don't know what, you never hear about it anymore. But yeah, I highly recommend you adding this to your arsenal for sure. The American March Brown. So you just make sure you get your wing case with your glue and waterproof that knot. So there you have it, guys. The American March Brown Nymph. An oldie but very good one, for sure. I want to thank you guys for joining me in this episode of the Fly of the Week. If you like the content I'm pushing out, please hit the notification bell and be sure to subscribe. Tight lines, guys.